this be a normal field trip? With a friend? No way!
Cruising on down Main Street, you're relaxed and feeling good. Next thing that you know, you're seeing what's in the neighborhood? Surfing on a sine wave, swinging through the stars. Take a left at your intestine, take your second right past Mars on the magic scuba. Alligator nostril, I'm on the magic scuba. Spank a plankton too. I'm on magic scuba. Stop the river of love. I'm magic scuba. Such a fine thing.
I still don't get it. What even is the nervous system?
I think it's time to take a more direct approach. Everyone, to the magic school car!
Wait. Car? What happened to the bus?
Oh, that broke down a while ago. But don't worry, the car's just as functional. Also, it's going to serve me today as a teaching assistant. Woo! Everyone, fasten your seatbelts!
I'm the only one.
We're going to be visiting Bob's body. His nervous system was drawn up specifically for us to learn from.
Hi, and I'm Miss Frizzle's teaching assistant, and I'm going to help you learn about the nervous system along the way. Let's go!
Oh, look what I found. What is this?
Oh, that's a neuron. Let's take a closer look. Okay, so let's get started. First off, let's look at a neuron. This is how we send signals throughout our body.
What are these branchy things?
Those are dendrites. They transmit impulses received from other cells through the synapses to the cell body. Anybody know what these are?
Well, according to my research, those are Schwann cells. They support the neurons, and they're surrounded by a myelin sheath that speeds up the rate at which impulses move.
Very good. And these are the nodes of Rambier. They're the gaps between the myelin sheaths. They're also where the ion flow across the membrane occurs. And finally, these are the axons. Any idea what they do?
Well, according to this, they conduct electrical impulses away from the neuron cell body so that they can transmit information to different neurons, muscles, and glands.
Very good again. Now let's move on.
Now then, class, we've seen a neuron, but there are also things called neuroglia. While they're both part of the nervous system, they have different structures and functions. Neurons are the structural and functional units of nervous tissue that are responsible for transmission, while neuroglia are more like supporting cells that provide nutrition to neurons. You can also see that neuroglia are missing axons.
So, how exactly do nerve cells help us move and do other stuff?
Well, something called an action potential occurs. In neurons, they're central to helping with cell-to-cell communication.
What happens in an action potential?
Action potentials happen when different ions cross the neural membrane. The sodium channel is open due to a stimulus, and because there are more sodium ions outside, and the inside of the neuron is negative relative to the outside, sodium ions rush into the neuron. Because sodium has a positive charge, the neuron becomes more positive, thus becoming depolarized. Potassium channels take longer to open, and when they do open, potassium rushes out of the cell, reversing the depolarization. Simultaneously, sodium channels begin to close, causing the action potential to go back towards negative 70 millivolts, a repolarization. The action potential actually goes past negative 70 millivolts, a hyperpolarization, because the potassium channels stay open a bit too long. Gradually, the ion concentrations go back to resting levels and the cell returns to negative 70 millivolts. Also, the channels sodium and potassium go through are opened by neurotransmitters. Here are some examples of some neurotransmitters. There's dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine.
So what exactly happens at the nerve impulse transmission at the synapse?
First is the polarization of the neuron's membrane. Sodium is on the outside and potassium is on the inside. The resting potential gives the neuron a break, while the action potential is created by sodium ions moving inside the membrane. And then there is repolarization, which is created by potassium ions moving outside, while sodium ions stay inside the membrane. At the end is the refractory period, which puts everything back to normal. Potassium returns inside and sodium returns to the outside of the cell body.
Now let's go to the brain.
Who's gonna do? We can do.
the brain.
Let's move on to the brain. Now class, do you remember the major parts of the brain?
Class, I'm the only other person here. Anyways, I remember. There's the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, the temporal lobe, and the occipital lobe. Those make up the cerebrum. They're in charge of reasoning, emotions, problem solving, movement, vision, memory, and a number of other things. There's also the cerebellum, which is in charge of coordination and balance. In addition to those parts, there's also the limbic system and brainstem.
That's correct. Very good job. As you should remember, the limbic system is comprised of the hypothalamus, thalamus, and hippocampus. In the brainstem, there are the pons, medulla, and midbrain. The pons are involved in motor control and sensory analysis. Within the pons are parts that are important for consciousness and sleep. Other structures are also linked to the cerebellum, which means it's involved with movement and posture.
The medulla is responsible for maintaining vital body functions, including heart rate and breathing rate. Finally, the midbrain is involved in vision, hearing, eye movement, and body movement. There is also something called cerebrospinal fluid that's found in the brain and spine. It acts as a cushion for the brain's cortex inside the skull. There's also the meninges, which envelop the brain and the spinal cord. It serves to protect the central nervous system, or CNS.
The nervous system is important, but it doesn't work alone. It also works with every other system in the body, such as the muscular system or the endocrine system. And those relationships are what we're going to be talking about.
The muscular system? I know a lot about that.
As you know, the nervous system is important in cell-to-cell communication. It's also used to activate intercellular processes. In muscle cells, the action potential leads to contraction, which is what we were seeing today.
It's also important in maintaining homeostasis, as it helps with the endocrine system. The nervous system is in charge of activating the release of hormones from certain glands, such as the pituitary, the pineal, or the adrenal gland. So it depends on what's needed. So if your body's sugar level is too high or too low, the nervous system is what's telling the beta cells to release insulin. Alright, that concludes our field trip.
Can we have a normal field trip next time?
With me? Never.
Oh, bye-bye.